My name is Ciandre Taylor, and I'm from Buffalo, New York. Oh, my childhood. My childhood and growing up in Buffalo, New York was, I like to say, as a child, I felt like it was the greatest childhood ever. But now looking back at it, I realized that there were some things and that I went through that, made me feel like why I realized that I actually didn't have the best childhood. Um, I grew up in Buffalo with my mom, my brother, and my stepdad. We lived in on the Lower East Side in Buffalo, and we didn't have all the finer things growing up. My mom did the best thing that she could to raise us, and to provide for us, and my stepfather did the same thing. But I do realize that we kind of grew up, poor, compared to the other families and the neighborhood. It's just some things that we just didn't have. And, as a child, you don't realize that you don't have those things until you see another child and you're like, oh, I don't have that. I don't have this. So, and initially, growing up in my childhood, I, was bullied. I wasn't the most popular kid growing up. So I was bullied a little bit growing up in the neighborhood. And I, eventually had to stand up for myself after being bullied, for so long that I just started fighting, fighting back, just to make sure that I was defending myself. And it came to a point where I was literally fighting boys most of the times. And, after I had my first fight growing up, I got so sick and tired of being bullied all the time in school and in the neighborhood. They started calling me Little Tyson because I was like, I'm not going to take it anymore. My mother was like, you're going to go out there and you're going to face your bullies and you're going to fight them and you're going to deal with it and stop running home crying. So after doing that, and beating up the boy down the street, I'm like, okay, I'm all right then. I can make it through this childhood. I can make it through things, But there still was some other issues growing up. I had issues with actually being molested from a family member. So that happened to me at a very, very young age. And it's something that, I kept inside me for a very long time. But I actually, started thinking about it, and it became an issue later on because I realized that I was having relationship issues growing up as a child, and later on into my teenager and adult years. And I could just kind of relate it back to, I guess, being molested, at a young age. And that develops your habits, that develop things. So that was something that I went through as a child and had to overcome as an adult. But, I overcame it, and I got through it. So, we moved around a lot when I was in grammar school and high school. My mom moved around a lot, but she did the best that she could, and she's definitely a different person now. But it was challenging. It was very challenging, moving every 4 months and going to a different neighborhood, and make friends with kids. And then the next thing you know, you're picking up and you're moving again. So it became challenging, but it made me tough, and it made me very independent because I knew that I had to, face things because I had challenges. I went to Buffalo Academy for Visual and Performing Arts, also known as BAVPA. I graduated in 1995, and I swear, performing arts at the time that I went there from 1992 to 1995, it was like fame in my book. It was kids dancing through the hallways. It was people singing in the hallways. I remember we used to, have our little beatbox and music session in the lunchroom, and I would be banging on the table and beatboxing and coming up with a beat, and we'd be rapping and dancing and singing and just having a good time. I was on the cheerleader team, and eventually I became the captain of the cheerleading team in high school for our basketball team at the time. I was in drill team, which was outside of Buffalo, and it was outside of Buffalo Academy for Visual Performing Arts. I was on Buffalo Finest Drill Team, and we were the finest drill team at the time when I was on there. So I don't know what happened since then, but it definitely was Buffalo Finest Drill Team. I was doing that. I did plays and musical theater while I was in performing arts. We did stuff with Ujima Theater Company, and we were doing that when I was like 14 years old. I had my first experience on stage through Ujima Theater Company with Lorna C. Hill. May she rest in peace. And I was acting. So I just was so enriched with culture when I went to performing arts, because I was doing things outside of performing arts, but also inside of performing arts. And it was just amazing, amazing experience. Just being in Buffalo performing arts, like the culture was different than regular high schools as compared to Kensington or Bennett. Like you could be yourself at Buffalo Performing Arts. You could be yourself at Performing Arts. You could wear what you want. You could express freedom. No one judged you if you wore a plaid shirt and striped pants, or if you had pink hair on one side and purple on the other side. No one judged you because we were so creative and so culturally enriched. You could just be free to be whoever you wanted to be. So that right there definitely shaped me into who I was and wanted to be. So I absolutely enjoyed my experience at Performing Arts. When I went to performing arts, I majored in music. I was a vocal major and slash in the choir. So we were in the choir with Mr. Gilbert and Frank Shinta and Mr. Jared, and it was just amazing. So that was something that I was really into as a music major and a vocal trainer. And I just had this ideal that I was going to be the baddest singer in the world. I was like, I'm going to be a singer. I'm going to be a singer. I just knew that I was going to be this fly singer, because when we were in chorus and we was hitting all those harmony notes, I was like, okay, this is it. I knew how to harmonize. I knew how to hit keys, and I'd be singing with my friends. And I'm like, okay, I'm about to, step outside the box, and I'm going to pursue this music career. So that was my goal when I graduated from high school. I was like, okay, I want to go down to Atlanta, Georgia. I want to go to a HBCU, which I ended up going to Morris Brown College. And I was like, I'm going to go down there in Atlanta, and I'm going to pursue my singing career. And at the time when I graduated, Usher was hot, TLC was hot, and Jermaine Dupri was out there producing, and girl groups were like a big thing. Destiny Child just came out. It was a big thing. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go down there, through the college life and see if I could, get an R&B group going. And it actually did. When I first went down to Atlanta, Georgia, at Morris Brown College for the first semester, I met two other ladies, and we performed, we formed an R&B group, and we was like, okay, we about to go see, get a producer. And we actually had a friend. Actually, it wasn't a friend. It was Dallas Austin himself. He had a friend who went to Morris Brown College, and that friend was like, hey, I got connections with Dallas Austin. He's gonna, meet with you ladies so y'all could talk about, possibly getting a career and getting signed. And I was just so excited about this. I'm like, yes, I'm about to do this R&B group. And then I got homesick, and my mom called me like at the end of the first semester, which would be going into going into winter break right before Thanksgiving. She was like, oh, I want you to come back home. And she wanted to work on our relationship, because we were having, relationship issues, prior to me going down to college. And she was like, why don't you come back home, and we could work on our plans and work on our relationship and so forth. So I was like, okay, I'll come back home on Thanksgiving break, so we can iron out our issues, and then I'll swing back to, college, for after winter break. I went back home to Buffalo, and I never went back to Atlanta. That's one of my biggest regrets, because I'm like, I had this music thing that was, who knows where it would have went. I had these interviews and this audition set up with Dallas Austin, but I went back home and, was working on my relationship with my mom, and I just didn't go back to Atlanta. And I ended up enrolling into Buffalo State College and just, staying in Buffalo from there. It wasn't until my daughter she turned about maybe 9, 10 years old, and she was into dance, and she was extremely, extremely talented. And I said, you know what? Maybe we could do a relocation. Maybe we could move outside of Buffalo so that I could help push her talent as being a dancer, and I could touch base in going back into acting and entertaining again. So I, made a decision that I was actually going to move to California with my family, and that's when I got back into my goals and chasing my dreams and doing what I wanted to do as far as acting and singing and theater. I made a choice to relocate to California.